Cinebench R23. This is on my mid 2012 MacBook Pro, and I thought I'd fire up Mac's fan speed control while we're at it, keep an eye on temperatures. And I do have my fan preset to 4,000 RPM, and we're about almost 9 minutes in. And this is on the multi-core test. We're going to do the same thing on the single core. But anyways, we're looking at 84 degrees, 86 degrees on the cores. The graphics is only about 80 degrees, 73 to 80 degrees, 74 degrees. So the temperatures are actually behaving quite well, surprisingly enough. I thought I'd do this as a test for this to benchmark the computer with Cinebench, but at the same time, I was kind of curious about what kind of thermals we can expect, because this program is pretty intensive, right? I mean, a lot of people out there using it both on Mac and PC, so, you know. Anyways, we're going to come back when we do the single core, and then we'll get all of our final test scores as well and see where this thing actually sits at. Now remember, this thing has 16 gigabytes of RAM in it. It's a i5 dual core, 2.5 gigahertz. It's got 1.5 gigabytes of video RAM. You know the jazz. Anyways, stay tuned. Don't go away. Instant for you as always. 8 minutes in here on this test for single core performance, and our temps are actually doing quite surprisingly well. 67 and 71. 60. Well, it's varying, right? GPU is at 62 degrees. It's actually doing quite well. I'm very impressed with these heat results. We're not even getting anywhere near thermal throttling, even on the multi-core test. So maybe my thermal compound paste is actually doing pretty good. I'm still going to order some anyways and redo the thing when I get bored. You know, winter is going to be coming again in a couple of months, so hey, I'm going to need some kind of a project. But yeah, pretty good on the temps right now, so it's doing all right. So I'm going to let this test finish off, and we'll come back and check out our final scores and see how everything does with this computer. In the last final moments, a couple little spikes to 79 and 80 degrees on the CPU cores. The GPU just doesn't want to do a whole heck of a lot. So we're definitely, you know, in that 80 range and under on multi-core and single core. So this thing's not throttling on this test with the CPU. So that's actually quite awesome. And the GPU is also doing quite well. Even though this is more of a benchmark of the CPU, your GPU is still working either way. But anyhow, so that would be that part. Okay, let's get rid of max fan speed control. So we've got 1067 points on multi-core. We've got 569 points on the single core, which puts us just below a 12-core, 24-thread, 2.7 gigahertz Intel Xeon. So that's not too bad for our single core. That actually did quite well in comparison. Multi-core, of course, we hit 1,067. Not the fastest kid on the block for multi-core here. And it's just below a 1.69 gigahertz 11th gen Intel Core i7. So for an old dog, she's doing really good. You know, because this is only a dual core i5 with 4 threads and 2.5 gigahertz. So that's actually not too bad. Like I said, not the fastest kid on the block, but I mean, even for video editing that I've been doing already with this thing, I was actually quite impressed that it took me like under 20 minutes to, you know, fire up iMovie, drop in all 5 files, edit them, and be out of there exporting and done. That was actually quite good for this machine, especially when you compare it to my 2009 iMac that this thing replaced. Wow, what a difference. But yeah, it certainly is not going to catch up to an M1 anytime soon, but not a bad little score, I think, for considering what this machine is. Anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Now, the other thing too is like I keep the RPM of the fan fixed at 4,000, which I think does help out a lot. I've heard a lot of YouTubers mention this because I've never personally ever noticed this myself. That Apple tends to wait until the CPU gets really hot before it starts ramping the fans up. I always have my fan running at, well, in the case of this one, at 4,000. And on my Mac Mini, even though I don't need to do it at all, its idle speed is 1,700. I keep it at 3,000. And that thing always runs like 30 degrees. It never really heats up that much. Actually, I think we should do a Cinebench score again on the Mini with Max Fan and see what kind of heat actually does get produced. So maybe we'll do that next. And that's actually kind of curious to see how hot things are getting during the test. Okay, scores are one thing, but how much heat are we producing? Are we thermal throttling anything? We should need to know this sort of stuff, right? It's very helpful information. But anyways, in the meantime, thank you so much for checking out this video on the mid-2012 MacBook Pro with Cinebench scores and heat ranges. And we'll be sure to catch you guys on the next one. See ya.